Hi, I'm Kristy Ella. Today I want to share one of my favorite bite-sized stories about love, life, and the quiet courage it takes to begin again. So settle in. Let's listen to Jolene tell her story. How George came back to me.
I didn't expect my life to fall apart on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic happened. No shouting, no slammed doors, just a quiet realization that the life I was living didn't fit me anymore. I was 52 years old, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a cup of tea that had long gone cold. I had spent most of my life taking care of other people: wife, mother, employee, problem solver, housekeeper. But somewhere along the way, I had misplaced myself. When my youngest moved out and my marriage gently unraveled, the house became unbearably quiet. At first, I filled the silence with noise: the television, podcasts, cleaning cupboards that didn't need cleaning. But silence has a way of waiting for you. One afternoon, I found an old sketchbook in a drawer. The pages were yellowed and bent at the corners, but they were there. Pictures I had drawn of my dog, George. I hadn't drawn in over 30 years. When I was young, I loved to draw dogs, golden retrievers especially. I sat down at my desk with shaking hands. The pencil felt like a foreign object in my hands. My very first sketches after all those years were supposed to be golden retriever, but honestly, they looked more like lumpy foxes with sad eyes. The legs were too long. The heads were too square. One of them looked like it had 3 tails. I laughed at myself, and then I drew another one. I used to have a golden retriever named George when I was a little girl. He followed me everywhere. If I ran, he ran. If I sat in the grass, he would gently lean against me as if he understood that sometimes that was just what I needed. I can still remember the way his fur caught the sunlight, almost glowing, and the weight of his head resting on my knee. Strangely, I can't remember what happened to him. I've tried. I've searched my memory like flipping through an old photo album with missing pages. I wish daily that my parents were still here so I could ask them, but what I do remember is how safe I felt with him. So I kept drawing him. Day after day, my golden retriever drawings improved. The snout softened. The eyes gained life. The fur began to move on the page instead of sitting flat and stiff. And something unexpected happened. As the dogs became more recognizable, so did I. Each sketch felt like reclaiming a piece of the girl who once lay in the grass with George, dreaming of who she might become. I decided to start going to a small art class at the community center. I almost turned the car around 3 times in the parking lot. I told myself I was too old, too rusty, too foolish, but I walked in anyway. There were 12 of us, some retired, some starting over, some just lonely. We laughed more than we painted, and slowly I realized something important. It wasn't about becoming a great artist. It was about giving myself permission to exist beyond my responsibilities. Months passed. My house didn't feel so quiet anymore. It felt peaceful. My drawings were displayed all over the place. One evening, my daughter came over for dinner. She wandered into the spare room I had turned into my little studio. On the wall were 6 golden retrievers, each one better than the last. She stood there for a moment and said softly, "Mom, I haven't seen you this happy in a long time." I didn't even realize it was true until she said it. The truth is, my life didn't fall apart on that Tuesday. It opened. Reinvention doesn't require youth. It requires courage, and courage doesn't roar. Sometimes it just whispers, "Try again." At 52, I didn't become someone new. I simply found the girl who once ran through the yard with a golden retriever named George, and I let her lead the way home. And that, it turns out, was more than enough.
I think Jolene's story really hits home. Sometimes the things we loved as children are not childish at all. They're clues. What part of you is quietly waiting to be remembered? Until next time, I'm Kristy Ella.